From Hollywood, it's time now for Edmund O'Brien as...
Johnny Dollar.
This is Mrs. Wish, Mr. Dollar.
Oh, yes?
Do I understand that you're in San Francisco because of the disappearance of my husband?
That's right, Mrs. Wish. The doctor's insurance company seem to feel that the circumstances deserve some looking into.
It is very strange, and I'm quite frightened.
I know you must be upset, and I know that the police have bothered you quite a bit. But I wonder if I could come out and talk to you.
Of
Home of the missing Dr. Wish, which was situated about halfway up fashionable Nob Hill.
Good morning.
Oh, Mrs. Wish is expecting me. My name is Dollar.
Yes, she is. Come in.
Thank you.
You're the insurance investigator.
That's right.
I'm the daughter. My name's Cecil. You learned anything about Father?
Not yet, but I just got here this morning.
Sure, I should have realized that. I'd like to talk to you about it.
Do you mean you think you know some other things that other people don't?
Some other people.
You haven't told the police?
No, I didn't like the man who came here, Lieutenant Hughes. I don't want to talk to you until after you've seen her.
Sure, anything you say.
Where are you staying?
The Cleveland Hotel on Sutter.
I'm going to be downtown. I'll meet you at the coffee shop at noon.
Okay, Cecil, I'll be there. Now, where can I find your mother?
The second door leads to the morning room and a view of the bay. She's waiting, so just walk right in. And don't mention what I said to you.
All right. I'll see you later.
Yeah.
Mrs. Wish?
Yes?
I was told to come right in. I'm Johnny Dollar.
Oh, yes, I've been waiting. Come and sit down.
I'll take up as little of your time as possible, Mrs. Wish.
Oh, it's quite all right.
I understand the last time you saw your husband was night before last when he left the house to make a professional call.
That's correct.
Would you tell me about it, please?
Oh, I only wish I knew more about it. My husband very seldom accepts night calls. But night before last, the phone rang, and he talked for a moment, and then he left.
What time was that?
A little past 9.
Isn't it his habit to let you know where he's going when he goes out at night?
No, I'm afraid it isn't anymore. Once it was, yes.
And you didn't hear him mention the name of the patient that called him?
No. I was out of the room, and he answered the phone himself.
Well, he must have said something to you.
Well, he seemed to be in a hurry. And he told me he'd be back in an hour or so, that it was an emergency. Naturally, we assumed that it was one of his regular patients. So yesterday, my daughter and I started phoning them. We got the names from Dr. Huber.
He's the other doctor in your husband's office?
Yes. I believe he's called some of Malcolm's patients, too, but none of them seem to have phoned that night. Oh, I'm terribly worried, Mr. Dollar.
We'll do everything we can. How do I get to his office from here, Mrs. Wish?
It's in the Tide building on post. You can take the cable car on the corner. It'll drop you just a half a block away.
Thanks. I'll be in touch with you.
Come right in, Mr. Dollar. I am sorry I was so brief with you on the phone. I had a patient in the office at the time.
That's perfectly all right, Dr. Huber.
It wouldn't help matters to discuss Malcolm's disappearance in front of him. You know how tongues wag. Please be seated. It is true that this situation is not yet common knowledge?
The papers have left it alone. How did you hide the truth when you phoned his patients?
What? Oh, of course, you have met with his wife. She was insistent that I do that. But it is not my duty, I thought, at least at this time. Do you not agree?
I suppose so, if you don't think Dr. Wish is in danger.
I don't jump to that conclusion until I see some reason.
The man has disappeared, Doctor.
Many men have disappeared. Dr. Wish is 52 years old. He has practiced here in San Francisco for more than 20 years. Before that in Seattle. The past 2 months, I have noticed a change in him. Tiring. He was no longer satisfied with his life.
Are you inferring that he might have ducked out on his own?
Perhaps even amnesia.
Does it sound like amnesia for a man to answer the phone, tell his wife he'll be home in a short time, pick up his medical kit, and drive away in his car?
Who knows about amnesia?
Does an amnesia victim go to the trouble of keeping a car hidden from the police of 3 states?
It would depend on the type of amnesia.
I didn't think there were types, so you must mean voluntary or involuntary. If he did just suddenly drop his life here, and you know that to be the case, I hope you...
I know nothing. Dr. Wish and I discuss very little but medical matters. I repeat that I realize that for 2 months or longer he was not a happy man. If he has made arrangements to change that, I do not know, but it is a possibility.
You wouldn't tell me if he were in trouble over his practice, would you?
I would not, but I'm sure that he wasn't. Dr. Wish is, to the best of my knowledge, a highly ethical man of medicine.
You're probably being cooperative, Doctor, but I'm not sure whether it's with Wish or with the police and me.
I am simply without information.
Yeah. I have an appointment in 15 minutes, but I'd like to come back this afternoon and get a list of his patients.
You are welcome. Please mention it to the receptionist on the way out. She'll be happy to gather the information for you.
Good afternoon, sir. Would you prefer a table or the counter?
I was supposed to meet someone here at noon.
It's 5 after, sir.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't see her. I guess she's later than I am.
Would it have been a Miss Cecil Wish, sir?
Oh, yes, that's right.
Then if you're Mr. Dollar, she phoned and asked me to tell you that she wasn't able to lunch with you, but that she would be reached by phone at her home any time after 2.
I see. Well, thanks very much. I'll take the counter. Might as well have a sandwich. I didn't suspect Cecil's motives until I left the coffee shop. Then I realized I was being followed. I kept my eyes pretty much off the man, but saw enough to describe him. Medium height and a broad-shouldered suit, and the hair that showed below a hat was so white blonde that I thought it must have been bleached. He followed me to a drugstore where I phoned Lieutenant Hughes, the detective on the case. Then my shadow followed me aboard a Market Street bus and dropped off a block after I did. He was lounging on a corner when I went into police headquarters.
I'm glad to have you in town, Dolly, but I don't have anything to give you. I put out a description of the doctor in his car, and I've been riding along on that. I'll have to for a few more days unless something breaks.
I take it you've talked to the other doctor in his office?
Yeah, I talked to him.
And he hinted that Dr. Wish dropped out of sight.
Yeah, and that in itself doesn't happen to be a crime. No, not yet, anyway.
Things like that sometimes crowd the law against insurance fraud, Lieutenant.
Well, not for a while. Oh, don't think I'm passing this off without reason. With the information I have now, there's darn little I can do, except wait and see if the wife doesn't get a brush off by mail from Alaska, someplace that's legal.
Do you have a line on any women in his life?
It doesn't necessarily have to be one, does it?
It helps sometimes. Do you know any reason why somebody should be tailing me?
Tailing you? When'd you spot it?
Right after I had lunch at the Cleveland Hotel coffee shop?
When do you think the tail was put on you?
I'm not sure. I went out to the Wish house this morning. From there, I went to his office. From there to the coffee shop. And I came here.
Any ideas?
Yeah. I've got an idea that a man who wants to drop out of sight wouldn't risk drawing attention to himself by putting a tail on somebody who's looking for him. Would you?
Hardly.
If it's all right with you, I'd like to leave things the way they are. I wanted to let you know about it, but I think we ought to let them play for a while.
I'll go along with that. I got some good men I could put on it, but there's always a chance of tipping him.
Let's leave him alone. Maybe he's only a hungry tourist who thinks I might lead him to a good steak. He followed me back to the doctor's office, and he was waiting for me 15 minutes later when I left with the names, addresses, and phone numbers of what I'd been told were all the patients of Dr. Wish. By this time, I was learning a few things about the man following me. He was good at it. Unobtrusive, not too eager, yet never losing me, though I didn't make myself too easy to follow. I let my